Today we're going to talk a little bit about Betsy Ross. Betsy Ross is famous for creating the American flag, or so the story goes. And as someone who has served under that flag for many years, I thought I would wear my uniform to show respect not only for the flag that I've served under and I continue to respect, but also for the woman that most of us would agree, or at least believe, had created the American flag. Born January 1st, 1752, as Elizabeth Griscom to a Quaker family in New Jersey, later moving to Philadelphia to settle down. Betsy Ross was a young woman who was an upholsterer, not actually a seamstress as commonly held. On November 4th, 1773, Betsy Ross married John Ross, who died during the Revolution. An interesting tidbit is that Betsy Ross and John Ross were not approved by Betsy's family. She was a Quaker, he was an Anglican. They did not approve of this, so they got married without any support. But Ross's real fame began in 1776 when she was apparently approached by this committee of three. According to William Canby, in 1870, in his paper that he delivered to the Historical Society of Pennsylvania entitled The History of the Flag of the United States, these three men were George Washington, George Ross, and Robert Morris, and they approached Ross to create an American flag, to create a national identity, if you will, through this flag. And as Canby writes in his paper, he stated that one day she was in her shop, Betsy Ross was in her shop doing what she does with the other woman, and these men approached her and asked her if she could actually create this flag. And it's interesting to note her response with her usual candor and humility. And she says she did not know if she could, meaning to create the flag, but she would try. She never made one, but if the pattern work showed to her that she had no doubt of her ability to complete it. The committee provided her some samples of what they were looking for. She really didn't like what was presented, according to the story, and neither did Washington. So after a few more showings, and a few things that were changed, Ross actually helped supposedly with the creation of the flag and the design. The design was put into place, and what we have today, or at least the evolution of the flag that we have today, was based off of that. Congress liked it. Philadelphia approved it, and here we have a young woman who is now famous for creating the American flag. Now, what's interesting to note about this whole tale, and again, I say a tale because there's not a lot of evidence. There's not a lot of evidence in any way that corroborates the story of Canby at all. Believe it or not, there are no historical records of this. A lot of it's hearsay, and a lot of it is historic tale. And a lot of people like the story, and it created this national identity, especially during the time after the Revolution, even during the Revolution, if you will, because Washington was in the story as well as Ross. This idea of we can do this, common sense, let's work together, let's use the raw materials that we have with us to use people like Ross to create a national identity. It was great. But we have to be reminded of the important point as historians for truth and objectivity. And according to Liberty University's Department of History's historical guidelines for historians, commitment to objectivity and honesty is essential to historical investigation. In 1873, the Ross story was appearing in national journals. In 1909, Canby's brother and nephew published a book, The Evolution of the American Flag. And we've had this constant evolution of this story. And supposedly this story can't even be corroborated. According to Elizabeth Cometti, writing in the New England Quarterly, there's no evidence that Ross made the flag, and Washington wasn't even in Philadelphia at the time when Congress authorized the Stars and Stripes, further echoed by historian Laurel Thatcher Ulrich in her essay, How Betsy Ross Became Famous. And I think what's important about this story is that it created this national identity, this myth that it's not important to follow the facts, but it's important to create this love of country, the respect for other people, respect for heritage, and all the things that takes into account. Now, while I understand it's important to honor and respect the flag, I also think it's important to understand that truth and objectivity must come first. Thank you.